All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the deployed studios of Inside My Canoe Head here on the road. We today are going to record this little photo booth version of the podcast to shout out to everybody out there so you can see them, the mannerisms and everything else that I use when I'm talking about the issues. If you like this format, please reach out. Tell us that we need to do more of it this way, and we can work on providing you greater levels of content in the visualization like this. Yes, this is a hotel room. Happens when you're on the road and you're in business. I'm out on a leadership symposium working with a bunch of really smart people trying to figure out how to build leadership in communities, increase resilience, and bring some pretty incredible parties together, which is the element and the basis of social capital. Bit of echo in here. I can't really control the sound echoing in a hotel room, but hey, this is the things that you do when the world's a little messed up. Right? And you're away from home. Listen, I got my notes here, so if I turn my head down like this, I'm checking my notes. When you get to my age, you periodically need to do this. So, you know what? Sometimes we have a lot of fun at this. So, again, thanks for coming back to the studios of Inside My Canoe Head and paying attention to this. We're going to put this up on our Preparedness Labs Incorporated social media feeds. And so today what we want to talk about is animalistic requirements and preparedness. You hear this a lot at Preparedness Labs Incorporated and on the podcast Inside My Canoe Head, that we refer to your animalistic requirements as something that is key and essential in preparedness. Actually, it's the basis of determining your appropriate standard of preparedness and what you may or may not need to deliver support to you and those who you love and those for whom you will be responsible in a time of need. That's a bigger decision. It's another episode on a podcast series. Look at the Buzzsprout or your Spotify link, or go to the latest couple of episodes are available on Inside My Canoe Head or preparednesslabs.ca. So when we do this because the first and foremost to remember is humans are an animal in the environment. We are not sitting on top of the environment. We are part of the environmental system, the ecosystem of planet Earth. Now, you can take a position that we're a predatory species to the planet. You can take whatever position you want, but we are part of the framework of this world. So we're an animal in the environment. We don't own it. We don't sit on it. We don't control it. We don't run it. We're part of it. And if you understand that frame and use that for figuring out what your needs are in preparedness, this is the basis. Now, understanding that let's go to a basic economic 101 lesson. You have two types of goods in the world. That's it. Everything is either a necessity or a luxury, right? A necessity are things that you cannot live without. They're required for the human animal to exist and operate in a modern technologically enabled society. Remember, that's a different reference to running around and doing bushcraft. That's why preparedness and bushcraft are two distinctly separate things. One's not better than the other, but they're simply two distinct separate activities that have a lot of commonality, maybe in purpose and intent, but they are different because preparedness is about the minimal standard necessary to maintain the human animal in a technologically connected world, which is different from survival in the bush, lost in the woods, pulling your once-in-a-lifetime Survivor episode, whatever it is you're trying to replicate out there. So we use that in understanding. So if you understand that framework, we then take it to the next step and say, okay, if everything is a necessity that we're talking about here and nothing is a luxury, then it should be a pretty small item. And when we do that, when we just talk about necessity items, we get rid of the need to talk about luxury items, right? Very simple. I think it's pretty easy. So let's go through it. You have food, water, shelter, health, safety, and security as your six. Three, getting old. The first one is food, right? So when your animalistic requirements of food, you have to take in calories. Now, yes, the human body can go 2, sometimes 3 weeks without any calories, but at a certain point you start to deteriorate. And I think it's about the 12th or 14th day, depending on the body, that it starts to eat muscle. And sometimes when that happens, there's no stopping it. So you will need food at some point, but you can go several days without food. Yeah, you'll be uncomfortable. People do it intentionally to fast. But what we like to plan for is about 2,000 calories roughly per human being. Don't forget your pets, those awesome little pets that you have. They're pretty freaking cool. We love them to death. They're part of the family. Don't ever forget your pets. You're thinking about the humans, you're thinking 2,000 calories. Now, A lot of people will tell you that you just need, let's just have the type of food, the ready to eat food, right? Let's just go with the non-perishable food. That's the phrase they use. And that's really good for a day or so, right? But seriously, fans, seriously, think about it. You're on day three of some type of emergency, and you're still handing Cliff bars and granola bars to your family. How fast is that mutiny going to happen? How many smiles are you going to get in return when supper is once again a selection of protein bars? And oh, by the way, here's another bottle of plain water, right? Especially if you're in climatic conditions that are challenging, either really hot times or really cold times, you're going to want climate appropriate drinks, right? I survive with my coffee, right? My favorite Yeti mug right here is always got to be full of coffee. It's just the way it is. So when I think about food, I think about I want forever, however long timeline I'm prepared for, and that's a different episode altogether. But say you pick what we recommend at Preparedness Labs Incorporated, and inside my canoe head is 14 days, right? So say you have 14 days times 2,000 calories, right? So you're looking at 28,000 calories per human being that you're responsible for. I recommend, and based upon research, if you want to keep people happy, you feed them the food they love, or at least tolerate, or like, right? Because Napoleon famously said an army marches on its stomach and families will smile. If you can give somebody a hot cup of coffee, hot cup of tea, hot cup of cocoa, whatever it may be, on a cold night when you have limited ability to heat the space in which everybody is occupying, you will be far better off, right? You're going to get a higher level of morale. And maintaining positive mental health through a disaster is one of the key elements to a successful, better outcome in a faster sense. And so you've got to be able to cook food. You've got to be able to heat food, and you've got to be able to boil water anyhow in case you have an issue with the next thing, which is water, which is 2 liters of potable water, drinkable water per person per day. You can double that if you're thinking ablution and cooking as well. So if you think 4 liters of water a day, now if you have 10 people in your house, that's 40 liters. And if you're doing 14 days, okay, now you're talking about a ridiculous large amount of water. So a lot of people aren't going to store that. What they're going to do is have some type of purification system, and it could be boiling water. So you're going to have to figure out your alternate system for heating food and boiling water in times of an emergency, right? You just have to figure that out. There's lots of options out there. We can help you with it. We've got podcast episodes on food as a system, food and water as a combined system that supports life, etc. But you're going to have to be able to do that, right? So we look at that and you get that figured out. It's not complicated. And then we get into shelter, right? So we recommend, and the evidence states that clearly sheltering at home is the number one thing. So we call it sheltering in place. This is what you want to do. You want to build your preparedness plan based upon a foundation of sheltering in place. So the structure and the 4 walls are basically going to keep the elements out. So the wind, the rain, and the weather is out. Now, you may have challenges in climate controlling and climate maintaining it, right? Like keeping it at an appropriate temperature that's comfortable and safe and happy for people that are inside. That's going to set you a set of challenges, but essentially you're going to want to have a shelter where people can be secure from the weather. And in the 1700s, 1800s, they'd have something called a keeping room in parts of North America where they didn't have insulation, right? A lot of homes didn't have insulation. So in the dead of winter, even when you're firing the wood stove up or the fireplace up, it wouldn't maintain all that much heat because with no insulation in the walls, the heat just left the room. So they would call it the keeping room. And the keeping room is where you kept everybody to stay warm. So you took a small room in the house and you had a fireplace in there, and everybody stayed in there. So with the help of the body heat and the lack of circulation of air coming from the outside, it helped to reduce the discomfort, shall we say, of the temperature. So you need shelter for everybody. If you're sheltering in place, you pretty much have that made. You just have to consider, depending on where you live and the extreme temperatures that you're going to be exposed to throughout the 12 months of the year, how are you going to provide extra heat and extra cool? Now, that may be nothing more than opening some windows, directing flow, manual fans, a whole bunch of other things that you can do. None of this costs any money, but you have to figure out how you're going to ameliorate to the best extent possible the temperature that you're facing. Then you got health, right? And the simplest part of this is you got to have first aid training. Now, whether you get that first aid training in a formal course, if you have the money, that's fantastic. If you don't have the money, then there's lots of places online at YouTube, et cetera, that's free. It's not going to be the best, similar to a St. John Ambulance or Red Cross course, but if you don't have any money, it's a perfectly good way to learn. There's books in the library that you can borrow. And I say this in many podcast episodes, and it's in our book as well, Preparedness Simplified, that's available on Amazon. Is that you simply go around your house and gather all of your first aid like supplies, like different types of tape, bandages, Band-Aids, ointments, ibuprofen, acetaminophen, stuff like that. When you actually bring it together, you probably have a pretty significant first aid kit in your house already. You just have it dispersed in many different places. Then we get into your safety, which a lot of that is access to information. Where are you going to get your really great information, right? So a human animal, to be safe, needs to know what's going on in a modern technologically enabled society. So where are you going to form it? Maybe it'll be a radio broadcast. Maybe it'll be some other forms. But this is what you're going to do, right? You're going to figure out where your municipality is going to send out trusted, appropriate information to you and the residents of your community. When are they going to send it out? Over what means and what channel? And then you got to go find that channel, and you've got to make sure that you have access to it. Radio, internet, whatever it may be. And if the power's down, you probably just have radio, but understand where that information so you can gather that, right? You build a sense of community with your neighbors so you have that shared information between you and your neighbors. And then the one other key thing, the one that can be challenging though, is firefighting. And this is something that the evidence points to, the loss of a lot of homes and the damage in a lot of homes during crisis situations where a fire service is stretched. They may be 45 minutes before they can get a fire truck to your house, even though your house is on fire. So you're being able to have even a simple fire extinguisher or appropriate grease fire, buckets of water, whatever it may be, some methodology that you've logically worked through at how you're going to deal with a small fire, a kitchen fire, or a small electrical fire, so way you can deal with it and put it out before it takes your house down. There are community programs if you don't have access to a fire extinguisher where you can do fundraisers, et cetera, to have fire extinguishers ready and available within the community. In some lower socioeconomic areas of town, sometimes they have firefighting centers where there is some unsecured shed in the back of somebody's house or whatever, and it contains a group of firefighting equipment. There's lots of different strategies. Money's never going to be a barrier. Ingenuity and initiative will solve the day. But that's that. And then you think about security, right? And a human animal needs to be secure, right? Again, I'll roll this back to maintaining your mental health. Mental health throughout a disaster and emergency is an exceptionally important thing for you to maintain and for you to contribute to maintaining everybody's around you, right? So if everybody's mental health is of a reasonable level and everybody has intelligent emotional control, then what you have is that as things get difficult or a little bit more, a little bit less difficult, you don't have this massive range of emotions. You don't have people playing victims. I'm oppressed. Nobody's paying nobody's bringing me stuff. It's the government's responsibility and all that other ridiculous stuff that you hear. People are navigating the situation on their own resources with their own mental health. And you do that by providing a safe and secure place. And safe and secure means simply that people can lock the doors and go to sleep. I know. And you just ask yourself, with this house, with your sheltering in place, where you are you comfortable having everybody go to sleep in the evening with the doors locked? Do you have doors that can lock? Do the windows lock? And basically it's saying that you're creating a safe space for you and your family to rest and to recover and to wait out whatever it may be in your shelter in place location, right? There's a whole bunch of variables that contribute to whether it's a good or a bad decision, but the end result is this. So, and if you look at the human animal and you roll back through these six, so your food, water, shelter, health, safety, and security, and you consider the human animal as part of the environment, and then look at what is the basic necessity, not luxury good, but necessity for the human animal to be successful, you just add a few extra things that may be considerations for you. One has got to be for your cell phone, right? We all live on these cell phones, good, bad, or indifferent, whatever it may be. And then you just need a portable battery pack for them, right? And a portable battery pack is a really simple device that basically stores a couple of charges so that you don't have to be that ridiculous individual that goes out into the driveway and starts their car when they need to recharge their phone, because a car has fuel in it, right? And you're burning fuel to recharge your phone when the reality is when the power's out, you don't have the ability to refuel your car. So you're using a very, very finite, exceptionally important asset that may be used if you ever had to evacuate for the simple sense of charging your phone. So don't be that individual. Again, these things are available very, very reasonably, $20 or less. You can pool your money. You can run community resources, whatever it is. You should just have battery backup for your cell phone. And if you don't have the socioeconomic ability, you can share that between people. You don't need to power every phone in every home. I mean, everybody will want to. Please don't misunderstand me. They'll desperately want to. But that's some ideas. Listen, just a quick shout out to all of you out there. We are here doing our best to figure out the next steps in Preparedness Lab's journey and providing you the best possible research-based and evidence-based information on adopting a prepared life. We have got a number of wonderful products out there for you. Number one is we just launched the Journal of Preparedness in Canada. The JPIC, as we're referring to, it is a non-profit, free of charge, free download, and free to send in a submission for publication. And it always will be free. It's a way to combine the peer-reviewed and opinion-related material. I wanted a place where preparedness had a voice in Canada, specific and direct, and so it didn't exist, so I created it. And now Volume 1 is out there, Issue 1. We're going to go through a couple of machinations as changes and different ways of doing things until we get to a steady state product. And any new product always does, and that's fine. Love your suggestions. Please keep that information coming. A lot of great reviews, a lot of good comments, a lot of good suggestions, and we really appreciate those too. The suggestions that are coming forward to help us make this journal better. We've got a book out, Preparedness Simplified, which is a 50-page ebook available on Amazon for $7 and it's basically the summation of the information that I've been talking about here today and a bunch of other stuff in a singular place for you to read and maintain. We have Adopting a Prepared Life video course. And this video course is over 2 hours of video that I recorded. It took about a year to put together to do the research on it. And it's basically our educational system laid out in a video format. It's available for $79. It's lifetime access. You get access to a community of like-minded individuals. And we add, starting in December of 2023, we are adding a new episode every month, and you'll have that time immemorial. So it's a fantastic investment, fantastic Christmas present, but that's out there. We've got a second book that's coming out, hopefully in December. It's a summation of 3 years of preparedness thoughts in Canada. So we're putting together musings from around the country on preparedness, and we're going to publish them in a single journal. In a single book coming out in December of 2023. So with that, we've got a lot coming. I hope and I appreciate you taking the time to listen to us here at Inside My Canoe Head on the Preparedness Lab social media channel. Please drop us a like. Tell us what you think. Tell us everything that you want us to know, good, bad, or indifferent. You cannot hurt our feelings. All you can do is help us get better. Because remember, this podcast and all of the information we put on social media is free. It always will be free. It's for you. It's to help you adopt a more prepared life and build a more resilient community. We do this for free because we care. It's the social way of contributing to the world around us. If you listen to a previous episode, I talk about the 3 rules of life. And the third one is to, leave the place better than you found it. Leave no trace. Be prepared. But leave it a better place than when you found it. And so this is our social contribution, our social license to operate, what we do to help our fellow Canadians and by extension, everyone else in the world be more resilient in this chaotic decade of the 2020s. So thank you very much for joining us today. Again, if you like this format, we could do it more. We can be a little bit more expressive, a little bit more vocal, have a little bit more props if you want. Either way, I appreciate you taking time and listening to this. So take care and stay safe.